Something's crawling in the background of his room.
Yeah, he's like stinky or
like that's.
unhygienic.
Oh, like when his house when he fell off of his attic.
What?
I was dead.
Hold on. Dead animal in my attic that smelled bad and ended up falling through the ceiling. Pretty sure I'm living in rock comer, the most successful right-wing commentator in North America. This is how he lives, bro. Like,
Damn.
unironically, he chooses to live this life.
He's married to the game.
Yeah.
You know.
And
I honestly wish it's just rot. It's a dead animal or something.
no, his ceiling rotted.
Oh.
And he fell through it.
Married to the game.
And, lo and behold, this type of guy is Asmongold's favorite content creator.
Oh,
This is unironically what these guys watch and say is good and smart. I love showing people who are
here.
I love showing people this kind of because it's like this is like, you know how they used to do the reacts stuff in the back.
As stoked as I am, let's see what you want.
Kids react to, like, I don't know, the fall of Nazi Germany or whatever, right? And this is like normies react to Asmongold and like gamer lore. Like having you guys try to understand.
Yeah, no, this is crazy.
He has a dead rat that is an alarm clock because when the sun actually starts shining on the dead rat, the room starts to stink, so he wakes up. He has a wall covered.
That's insane.
No, you're making that up.
That's insane.
You're making that up.
Chat.
You're making that up.
Roll the tape.
You're making that up.
Send
bro.
the photo of Alvin and the Chipmunks is on.
You're making that up. You're
Chat,
making that up.
Roll the tape.
You're
Chat.
making that shit up.
Send
No
the
human
tape.
being is living like that.
Send the video.
No human being is living like that.
I know it's the morning when.
Yeah. He looks very crusty with the yeah.
I know it's morning when the sun.
There you
Get
go.
the dead rat out. I don't need to anymore. It doesn't smell bad. Get the dead rat out. I don't need to anymore. It doesn't smell bad. It would. The thing is, I used to use a dead rat as an alarm clock, actually, for my stream, because basically what happened was, whenever the sun would come up, it would start cooking the corpse of the rat, and then it would start smelling again, and then the smell would wake me up. So I would use the rat effectively as an alarm clock, and as soon as it, it got hot enough, it would wake me up, and then I would know, oh, it's time to stream. Have you guys ever done that before?
That's not.
You guys ever done that before? No. No one has ever done that. Why would you ask for...
No way.
Around though.
This guy's also chat.
I can't. I'm having a hard time like putting my head around.
Chat,
this
show
shit.
the blood wall.
Chat, show the Alvin and the
Blood wall?
Chipmunks Hassan.
Show the blood wall.
Oh, I've seen the blood wall, actually. I've seen the blood wall.
Asmongold used to smear blood from his gums onto the wall next to his bed because his mouth wouldn't stop bleeding since he wouldn't brush his teeth.
Yo.
Wisdom's getting up. He's like, I need a breather.
Wait. How? The reason why the blood's there is crazy because he's just in bed going, oh my.
No. I think he likes Elden Ring. He's a WoW. He used to play WoW. Oh, also he's a multi.
This is seriously gonna make me sick.
Much money. He is a crazy. He's like way wealthier than me.
Why is he doing? Why is
Okay, here.
For the
Look at this
love
one. Look at
of
this one.
the
Look at this one. Look at this one.
Oh. There's a roach flying at me. Give me.
Huh?
There's a roach?
No, his aim is ass, but that's not it.
Roach flying at me. Give me a minute. Where'd he go? Oh,
Dude has stage hazards.
he's on
in
my
his
belly.
room.
Look at him. He's right there. Oh, God. Get him out of me.
What are you doing, bro? Get out.
It's a roach.
Go in the garbage can. I'm gonna take him.
He threw the roach in the garbage can and kept going.
Give me a minute. I got him.
Oh, he's holding it still. That's a real guy. Show this Asmon 3. Okay, dude. Christ.
Wait, hold on, bro. But dog, this is why I said, like, sometimes, dude, I gotta protect my peace, man, because not only is this okay, because here's the thing. I know that there are people who live like this, just regular human beings. Like, the idea of that isn't too crazy, right? It's just the fact that this is a guy.
This is what his room looks like.
Oh!
I think, is this before he cleaned it? He did a whole thing. He got banned for saying Palestinians are an inferior culture that deserves to be genocided. He got banned for like 14 days for that. Okay.
Yo.
And after he got banned, he was like, I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have said that. You know, I'm gonna learn. I learned my lesson. I'm cleaning my house. And it was like a big deal.
Oh,
it went
crazy.
viral because he said he's cleaning his house, bro. And because that's what a house looks like. I mean, there's videos of the lair.
Hello, everyone. Heard a lot of people saying that I exaggerate things. I, make things more than what they are. And that's
I mean, this is 14 years ago. This is 14 years ago when he first started, I think. Now it's there's even more trash.
Dude.
Yeah. Once again, largest content creator on the platform, and also largest political commentator in North America right now. No, he's always been one of the biggest content creators on the platform, but he recently took a step in the political direction.
Oh my God. That's
What do you guys think his politics are like?
Well, based on what you just said, his comments about Palestinians, I imagine they're pretty rotted.
He's of course he's a communist. He's
Holy fuck.
Asman drinks water for the first time in his life.
yeah. He's just
Did
like
he
us.
follow it up with soda?
It's better.
I mean, he's
Hey, Hassan, hey,
he's
we're
memeing.
not that.
Team deathmatch.
All right.
We're like that.
Shoot to kill. We're not here to negotiate. We're winning. Keep it that way.
So I haven't done a video about yet. So we'll start.
On the move.
Minutes where I
Drop the enemy's long gun.
man.
No, I don't care. I'm not even pausing. He did donate. Tell his chat to donate to the Razor Ladies.
All right. Let's call this.
Live exactly like they found the tweets.
Given up the lead.
Hostile marksman removed.
We've taken the lead. Stay on task.
And they
Taking the lead.
Check that aim, shite for brains.
Bro, you like, please, genuinely.
Bro, look at his views. Look at his views. 21 hours.
The lead is on.
All right. Let's call this duty.
There's more. Let me show you his other channel.
We've claimed the advantage. Now hold it.
Enemy thermal.
You're falling behind, Crimson.
Gun.
Administer
Unnecessary stint.
That live like
Says the R word a lot. Yeah. Base. You just gotta Oh, here he is.
These deportations where they bring in like
Black pill.
Hostiles now pulsing your AO.
All right,
like this is
let's
actually
call
really
this
good
duty.
Okay.
What people seeing what I see every day because I'm
Your tactics aren't working. Find another way.
Because normally, as soon as I pull up Asmongold clips or anything, like 100 comments in the chat being like, "I hope you get killed." Terrorist lovers.
Whoa,
Hassan, you
put me
literally
in
love
a
him
gun.
though. Hassan,
Get out front!
Because mind you.
Pack it up, Crimson. You met your match today.
Guess we all going home pissed.
On the fact that this is an individual that lives literally
Hostile deleted.
I was watching. Somebody who doesn't give a fuck about shit to that, like that's like.
What? What are you showing?
I was like, wait,
What the
I don't
fuck are
get
you
it.
showing
I was
us?
like, dude, I am so lost.
his Apple TV notification. I was like,
Yeah, I
what
was
the
like,
fuck?
we don't
His, his dad
Okay,
watches
so
me.
wait a minute. So
His dad is a liberal though. His dad actually watches me since
so
like
is it
2022.
because he's originally a gamer is what I'm hearing. So that's why people. I guess that's what he grew his platform on initially.
I don't like
Asmongold comments on the racially driven Shiloh Hendricks, the white lady who called a 5-year-old black child the N-word, and says, I think racism is bad, but it isn't white people that started this. It's the people that started this Carmelo Anthony thing that are primarily black.
competitive racism. I think racism is bad, but it isn't white
I don't know.
I couldn't even.
people that started this. It's the people that started this Carmelo Anthony thing that were primarily black. They saw this.
This is a dude who got, like, there. He was at a track meet, and he stabbed this teenager. And his defense is that it was self-defense. We don't know if there's enough evidence for a real self-defense case, but people were giving into his defense fund, and he's saying that this is the reason why it's okay for people to fundraise for a white lady saying the N-word or the hard R to a black child.
Idea that, well, because this guy's black and he stabbed somebody, so we're going to defend him without any sort of context at all, without even looking at it. Now you see white people that are doing the exact same thing. And the thing is that Give Send Go isn't going to delete either one of these, and they shouldn't. They shouldn't delete these. Let people do what they want to do.
Yeah.
Where does he live?
Actually much of a racist, right? I think this is an example of when you allow double standards in society. Is that double standards radicalize people more than anything else that could ever happen. You could have the average white person watch 15 Klan meetings, 10 hours of Richard Spencer, watch Nick Fuentes on the regular, listen to Kanye West's new album, and even watch AI translated
Team deathmatch.
Adolf Hitler.
All targets declared hostile. Happy hunting, Crimson.
Carmelo Anthony officially. This
Stars reclaimed the lead.
I'm using the limited knowledge
And he
I
DMs
have.
with Elon Musk. But that's not surprising.
So glad I don't have to run in here. That's all you. You're just carrying me around.
Claim the advantage. Now hold it.
But like, what's to do? Like, how do you combat like sending people this way? Like, what?
Setting a rally point.
We need to speak in language that speaks solely like that solely focuses on emotion. That's less critical and logical. Maybe that's the easier for you to understand. Because when it's like conversations on the left,
Let's go.
Right, to a degree where I kind of know it does in a weird way. I mean, not that I didn't know shit like this already. Like, obviously, I
No, but
just,
you probably didn't know how
Falling behind Crimson.
dude, he's Jesus Christ, I didn't live
Lead is on.
That's all you.
6 month subscriber.
We've given up the lead.
2020. Okay.
Well, this guy pays money to watch.
All right. I got enemy.
We've taken the lead.
You almost got him. Good.
Let's go. For saying Hamas and Israel.
They've taken the lead.
Him like watching these guys, like,
The lead is on.
More like Seth Rogen. Come on. That's pretty clever.
Setting waypoint.
Why would you say I'm worse than him? If we're both closer to him, I guess. There's also a lot of people who want to like centrist. So they'll say like, oh well, you're also damaging discourse in the same way that like Asmongold or something. And they also happen to think that I'm worse than Asmongold. So I want to know what he means by that. Because you like. What do I do? What do I do with this based centrist, extreme centrist?
Any more?
Headshot.
Sniper, find cover.
That's real, y'all. He's not president until January, you dumbass. Excuses, all I hear long. Cops are in these communities without the name worse. Maybe he means.
where's the crossover to where he started not liking you?
That's all you. You're just carrying me around.
Jump. I have a lot of like Trump 2020. He passed the bill. He's gonna win, baby. Trump 2020 better than Biden. Easy clap. Yeah, I wonder why. I wonder why he hasn't voted bad.
Obama's goated.
Got one.
Should now be like,
Hostile eliminated.
like what?
Throw my blood on the wall.
Yeah. No, you can't. Not a real one.
Rat as a alarm clock is like genius. When the
Yeah.
sun starts cooking its flesh, I know it's time to wake up. The rat alarm clock is crazy.
Bro, you saw literally. That's so. You have permanent psychic damage.
Let's go.
So glad I don't have
Rat
to run.
alarm clock is crazy.
I've seen my fair share on the internet. But there's something worse
So
about
glad I
this
don't have
because
to
this
run.
is like the psychological deterioration of like upcoming generations and like the people of now.
Requesting recon above.
No, but I think that
like the same,
All right,
psychic damage of,
let's
like,
call
watching
this
ISIS
duty.
beheading video.
Watching those
And-
first thing in the morning.
And honestly, I really feel like
Wake up and go, time to watch my favorite
Yeah.
streamer.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
Oh, Asmon's on.
That I dunked on as well. He said, society would instantly and dramatically Final 10 most awkward kids out of school, put them in the
Give them a nudge.
off that quote. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, you just got some wisdom, my friend. That's what happened.
I'm gonna change my name.
Same waypoint. Get a UAV on grid.
Yeah, I don't tell him anything about online stuff. That's my normie friend. He's like a normal dude with a regular.
I'm going back.
They never stood a chance. Proceed to extract.
Oh, hell yeah! That's how it's done.
Who's laughing now? Me. Actually, I laugh a lot.
I don't even classify
I know that this is like the average person. It's just that online there are a lot of people that feel like this and also live like this.
Doing this thing with like these deportations where they bring in like celebrities to deport people, and it made me wonder, what is the probability that Tom Homan would let me go with him dressed up as Ash Ketchum with watching them do deportation? Like, I feel like it's probably at least 5% chance, right? Like, I think we're at a 5 to 10% chance that this could happen. Yeah, exactly. That'd be really good content. It would be. And yeah, probably not going to happen though, but it would be funny for the
like, bro, as bro, I can't. Nah, we got let's yo.
It's funny because it's funny because I'm dressed like Ash Ketchum.
Bro, what the I couldn't. Yeah, no. Let's Met Gala.
On that note, I do have to leave soon, but this was a wonderful experience. I'm sorry to leave on such an awful note, but Grand Theft Auto 6 is coming out.
Yeah. Play the GTA 6 trailer again.
Yeah, that was.
On the surface, Hollywood looks like a dazzling dreamland where, with a bit of luck, anyone can become rich, famous, and make it. Someone who certainly had luck on their side when they entered Hollywood was Laura Prepon. Laura moved to Hollywood in 1998 for her first ever television role, playing the quintessential girl next door, Donna Pinciotti, on That 70s Show. But while That 70s Show made Laura Prepon rich and famous beyond her dreams, it also introduced her to someone who brought a lot of darkness into her life, Danny Masterson. Laura and Masterson's relationship was much deeper than most of her co-stars. Through their friendship, Masterson introduced Prepon to the 3 biggest relationships of her life. He set her up with his brother Chris Masterson, who has his own alleged dark history. And when things didn't work out with
Team
Chris,
deathmatch.
Masterson was also
Destroy
the
the
one to
enemy.
introduce Laura to her ex-husband and father of her children, Foster.
We've claimed the advantage, now
Of course,
hold it.
Also responsible for introducing Laura to the very active member of the alleged for decades. But when Danny Masterson was arrested for her various crimes, within weeks, Laura claimed she was no longer an active Scientologist. Laura refused to speak about
We're winning. Keep it that way.
Given Laura's
gained, Crimson.
She was continuing her close friendship, but just not.
We've taken the lead. Stay on task.
2023, conversations around Laura Prepon and Dan.
Eyes on it!
Behind the scenes, Laura's relationship with Masterson was allegedly causing issues in her marriage. For the reasons her husband, Ben
Check your fire!
So that's what we're going to be discussing. Ties to Scientology, her relationship, and what really happened behind the scenes. Over her very messy divorce, taken to her co-star's crimes, and
I'll stop that.
All
right,
So sit back,
let's call this
grab a
duty.
drink and a snack, and let's dive in to the hidden, controversial, and potentially cruel world of America's ultimate girl next door, Laura Prepon. Enemy found. Was born in Watchung, New Jersey. She was the youngest of 5 children, and she was raised in a household that blended Catholic and Jewish traditions. Her father, Michael Prepon, was actually an orthopedic surgeon and
Don't have to run in here. That's all you.
teacher.
You're just carrying me around.
Crack on, I need eyes overhead.
Eliminated.
Surgery.
Get out!
Whoa, put me in a gun.
She submitted casual photos.
Check your sights.
Enemy deleted!
Taken aback by this because she was always really tall and fit, and she played a lot of sports, and got to her because it was the first time. There was really like a lot of attention.
More like
and
Seth Rogen
comment
gun.
on her body.
That's pretty clever.
And at 15, she signed to a modeling agency, and she ended up dropping out.
Requesting
of high school
recon above.
to Milan.
Enemy spring mine! Not anymore!
Brazil. She shared an apartment with a lot of other models from the same agency, but she was living with other women, and so she got her mother to pay for an apartment. She was in Milan. Laura has talked about this time period a little bit.
All right, let's call this duty.
Cockroaches in her apartment.
Crack on, I need eyes overhead.
Take your head up your ass and your finger off the trigger.
Get out!
Sending frag.
Tractor move. So,
All right, let's call this duty.
Jersey in the 90s, she was like, acting seems to be the best avenue to go around 96, she started getting into acting. She said that
Enemy spring mine!
Hell yes! Oh my God, this game is intense.
She started appearing
Hold the line, Crimson. This is our salute.
She was cast in an internet is the
BDA one down.
that ended up going up on the internet. In 1990,
Mission goals are green. Dispatching team to mop up survivors.
Oh, hell yeah! That's how it's done!
didn't really matter because she ended up getting her big break that season. She was cast in a new Fox show, Feeling Alright. When auditioning, the show teenage wasteland. Titles by The Who. There was a lot of like controversy, so they decided to change the name of the show. After they shot and tested the pilot, people kept forgetting that the name of the show was Feeling Alright, so they decided to just go with the name that people kept referring to it whenever they were testing it. They kept saying, oh, I like that 70s show. So that's what they went with. Laura was only 18 when she was cast on that 70s show and was completely unknown, which was the case with the vast majority of her co-stars. Completely unknown. The show starred Laura Prepon as Donna Pinciotti, Mila Kunis as Jackie Burkhart, Topher Grace as Eric Foreman, Ashton Kutcher as Michael Kelso, Danny Masterson as Stephen Hyde, and Wilmer Valderrama as Fez, which stood for Foreign Exchange Student, and his real name and home country was never disclosed in the show. All of the series regulars stayed throughout all 8 seasons of the show, except for Topher Grace and Ashton Kutcher. They both departed the show at the end of the 7th season, although they did appear in a few episodes as special guest stars in the 8th and final season. As I said, Laura was only 18, so was Valderrama, Topher and Ashton Kutcher were 20, Masterson was 22, and Mila Kunis was only 15. As most people probably know, this is a famous thing that's known about the show now. Mila Kunis was 15 when she was on the show. She was only 14 when she was cast, and she ended up lying whenever they asked her how old she was. She said she was going to be 18 on her birthday, but just didn't say which birthday, but they still ended up keeping her when they found out she was only 15. And that 70s show went on to be a massive hit for Fox. In fact, that 70s show was the only show that survived pilot season, that 1998 to 1990
Hard boys.
Fox. While the show
Green light. Go, go, go. Hostiles have the hard point.
Enemy grenade!
Hard point is secure.
Wouldn't get away with a 10th of the stuff.
Nice. We're pulling ahead.
In early 2000s.
So glad I don't have to run it. That's all you. Just carry me around.
The ability to internet.
Hostiles have captured the hard point. God, is that blood? Nobody told me there would be blood.
Are you trying to shoot me?
Hard point identified.
I guess you are.
Hard point active. Hard point is secure.
Sitcom ever, just behind Married with Children, though it didn't quite have the same rating success as the later seasons of the show.
Haven't you heard? No one stays dead.
Calling in Score Street.
Hey, incoming lethal! Hey, incoming lethal! Hostiles have the hard point.
Those would be pretty much
UAV MTL, check the map. Check.
viewership like that.
Hard point locked down.
Nice. Got the objective.
Have these big episodes, seasons of 24 episodes, and
Hostiles have captured the hard point.
why when you look at
Thanks for the work. UAV overflight terminated.
they are
Hard point.
like Grey's Anatomy and Friends and The Office because
That's pretty
we're just
clever.
of these shows
Kill confirmed.
for seasons and seasons.
Hard point is
there's
active.
so many episodes.
Hostiles have the hard point.
All right.
Hard point is
Call
secure.
this duty.
2 years between seasons.
Hostiles have captured the hard point. Hard point locked down.
Got the objective. We're like Seth Rogen. Good. Come on. That's pretty clever.
Hard point is secure.
The higher I get, the better I shoot.
Hard point identified.
Operator establishing Score Street.
The hard point.
Also became very close.
on, you're losing this fight.
In the middle, and Chris Masterson
Priority tasking request
himself
received.
has
UAV entering requesting recon above.
Hard point located. Hard point locked down. Hard point check. Hard point is secure. Hostiles attached to hard point.
That was too close.
Said that it was.
Watch it!
Hostiles have the hard point.
Said that it was actually Danny Masterson that was awful.
Hard point is secure.
Concussion grenade sighted.
Hostiles have captured the hard
All right,
point.
let's call this dude.
Hard point locked down.
Tango, the battle works.
And just treated him poorly or.
Hey,
Hard
incoming
point
lethal!
identified.
Hey, incoming lethal!
And due to their characters,
Hostiles have the hard point.
Incoming lethal!
Hard point active. Hostiles have captured the hard point.
a lot of those scenes were those two characters, and of course, like the dozens of crew members.
Hard point is secure.
Laura was the closest out of the cast members to Toby.
Nice, got the objective.
Laura was very intertwined with the Masterson family because not only did she build Masterson for all of the seasons of that same show and a few years after, and she's
We've taken control.
join. The Mastersons are lifelong Scientologists.
Hey, there's an enemy shooter! Okay, this is kind of fun. I can do battle.
Hard point moving.
On this score street.
Hard point is active.
All right, let's call this duty.
Hostiles have the hard point. Hard point is secure.
Incoming.
Watch it!
UAV returning to tank.
Held by Tom Cruise.
Incoming lethal!
Enemy grenade.
Operator establishing score streak.
UAV established overhead.
Hard point identified. Hostiles have
Enemy
captured the
field
hard
upgrade. Not good.
Hard point active. Hard point locked down.
More like Seth Rowe.
Hostiles have the hard point.
That's pretty clever.
By the later seasons of that 70s show, Laura and Chris were living together, buying church, and attended a lot of classes. Living together, they never wanted to talk about
Look out! I am Seth. Hey, incoming lethal! Maybe I should not have spoken. Combat, but oh well.
Sit rep. LDPR incoming.
On this score streak.
Hard point located. Hostiles have captured the hard point.
See ya.
Hard point is active.
UAV MPS 50%. Check.
Hostiles have the hard point.
TACOM, drop care package.
Put me in a gun.
Flying on fumes. UAV returning to tank. Cerberus watchdog on station above. Tack on.
Hardpoint locked down.
Let's call this duty.
Hardpoint identified. Hardpoint active. Hardpoint is secure.
Using field upgrade. Boom. Oh, sure. Shoot the funny man. Real classic. Operator establishing score streak.
Hostile UAV established overhead. Archangel going hot. That's right, you
Oh, hey,
shithead.
actually, do you guys
The
want to buy some
CIA
pottery?
is nothing without us.
Resources down below in the Google link, and there'll be a lot of articles and links to his website.
They're not getting up.
Report about Danny Masterson and the assault that she had undergone at the hands of Masterson. So this incident with Laura Prepon and one of Danny Masterson's victims happened when everything happened with Masterson back in 2003. But this wasn't actually reported that went down with Laura and the victim until 2017. And it was reported by Tony Ortega, who, as I mentioned earlier, is a Scientology journalist. And he has a site where he has been covering Scientology extensively for years called the Underground Bunker. And this incident took place at the Scientology Celebrity Center in the parking lot. One of Masterson's victims had reported the rape to Scientology because, as I'm sure a lot of people are aware, Scientologists aren't allowed to go to the police about other Scientologists. They're meant to deal with it in Scientology. And if they do go to the police, they can be thrown out of Scientology and their family has to disconnect from them and everything like that. So they completely lose their lives, especially Masterson's victims who had been raised in Scientology. And after reporting Masterson, Scientology ended up punishing the victim and they were required to pay $15,000 to go and have all of these extra Scientology classes and all of this auditing and training. And so she would have to go to these classes every single day. And just after Christmas, when she was leaving one of the classes, she was walking through the parking lot and Laura Prepon was in her BMW waiting, and she ended up getting out of the car and approaching the victim and asking her why she was in the celebrity center and what she was doing there. And people might hear that and think, oh, maybe she was waiting in her car and just happened to see this person that she knew. But the victim very much thinks that Laura was sent to approach her about this. And a lot of other ex-Scientologists that I know think this is the case because Laura Prepon is a celebrity in Scientology, and celebrities are very, very much higher than anybody else in the organization. And Scientologists are, in my experience, that, you know, that meme where the dog is sitting in its house and like everything's on fire and it's like, this is fine. It's that, or it's just everything is perfect while literally chaos is happening. They never really want to acknowledge anything. And even if something horrendous is happening, they just will pretend we're good, we're good. And so they very much do not usually have this like direct approach about things. And the victim also knew Laura Prepon. So when she was telling this to Tony Ortega and Tony Ortega had another source that was talking about this too. They were saying, we know Laura, this isn't the sort of thing that she would do. This isn't the sort of questions that she would ask someone that, you know, in a park. Like, it's just not something she would do. And that is also why they think that she was sent there. And so by asking these questions about, like, what were you doing? Why were you in the celebrity center? If the victim had turned around and said, oh, I was in there for these extra classes, or, oh, I just went through a hard class, or the worst thing, I was there over the whole Danny Masterson incident, this would mean that Laura Prepon could go and report her to Scientology because she shouldn't be talking about this. She shouldn't be acknowledging this. It is something negative. She is speaking poorly to a celebrity Scientologist about another celebrity Scientologist. And so she had to be very careful about what she said to Laura. The victim ended up saying, oh, I was just super chipper and pretended to be normal, because if she had said something that even wasn't negative about Danny or the classes and Laura interpreted that way, then the victim, because she was on thin ice with Scientology already, she would have been completely kicked out of Scientology and would have to disconnect from her family and everything like that. The victim then did later go on to say that this incident in the parking lot with Laura was one of the worst bits about the whole process with Scientology, because she just felt so intimidated, and it just was an awful experience, especially because then she really felt like Laura was kind of doing Masterson's dirty work. And this is just one of many, many horrendous things that Scientology and Scientologists did to these victims. This story about Laura and the victim was first reported on well over a decade after it happened by Tony Ortega. And when he released this story, it was when all of the initial accusations were coming into the mainstream about Danny Masterson. Obviously, there'd been whispers for years about him, but when this happened in 2017, he hadn't been arrested yet, and everything continued for really 3 years for Masterson. Like, his life did not change. He still was on his show at Netflix. Ashton Kutcher very much fought to keep him there, but Netflix didn't really have any intention of letting him go. And even a year after the LA District Attorney announced an investigation into the accusations against Masterson, Netflix still hadn't fired him, and they only ended up firing him because of a situation that occurred between one of their executives. And one of the Netflix executives was at a soccer match for his kid. He was talking to another parent, and the parent asked, why is Danny Masterson still working on his show? Why hasn't he been fired? And the executive told the other parent, oh, it's because we don't believe the victim, so we don't have any intention of firing him. And the Netflix executive didn't realize that the other parent was one of Danny Masterson's victims. And so that story was reported on by Tony Ortega again, and Netflix, over the whole situation, ended up firing the executive and Masterson. And then 6 months later, the arrest of Masterson occurred, and he was charged with all of the rapes. And that is when this story by the New York Post came out, where Laura Prepon was referenced as one of his friends. And the New York Post story came out, and they ended up having a lot of the information from an ex-Scientologist called Jeff Levin. And in it, he was talking about how Masterson had this Scientology celebrity crew that went around Hollywood, and it was mainly Jason Lee, Giovanni Ribisi, and Laura Prepon. And whenever Laura Prepon's PR, and I'm assuming whole team, saw this reference in this New York Post article that was getting a lot of coverage because it happened just after the arrest, and it was the first real time that an article detailed Scientology's interventions in trying to bury all of this stuff and silence a lot of Masterson's victims. And so when this story was coming out, there ended up being a little line added to it that basically said,
fucking reports.
Tossing Semtex.
Team deathmatch. Remind the fugitives that actions have consequences.
This is it's a major no-no, okay? It's the biggest no-no of all time. And there is no there is no evidence of sexual assault that took place on October 7th. It is already a very difficult thing to suggest.
Semtex, front!
But on top of that, it was CCTV footage, body camera footages, militants' body camera footage. Every fucking
that's pretty cool.
singular of fucking CCTV footage.
Fragile.
Photos that family members, I believe it was came out and said, my daughter got raped, fucking assaulted. Like, he literally
All right.
denied of the existing victims, the family members, to make why is this important? There was a shit
More like Seth Rogen gun.
October 7.
That's pretty clever.
It was violent. They did a hang glider.
Hostile shooter.
It's a breakout from a fucking open air prison. Of course. Plenty of atrocities that took place. But it was increase. That's why it was important.
Setting up last time.
Ovens nonsense, or 40 babies were beheaded. Shit that, by the way, the will still repeat. Atrocity that justifies the unimaginable, untold amount of terror that
All right, let's call this duty.
where my analysis over the situation wasn't that it's true. Still, the majority of the fucking people that were killed were civilians.
Hostile LDBR drop detected.
Sexual abuse on the last episode of
CIA spec. Act like it.
how he understands the gravity when it's accusing you. Exactly.
Hey, don't worry, bud. You're doing your best.
Rest easy.
More like Seth Rogen gun.
Rest and recuperate. Tomorrow you'll be running drills until you drop.
Moving evac point. Situation's full bar.
This is the Esther case on display from Wikipedia. The New York Times changed her name to Sapper. October 2023, Israeli police showed multiple describing what she claims hiding place in the the militant passed parts of her body, sliced her breast, threw it on the street, and raped her. Then, while still penetrating her, shot her in the head, and then ejaculated. 2 months later, in December 2023, the New York Times reported accounts with very similar themes from This is not something that took place. Okay? I need you to understand. This is not real. Okay? also, the person that conducted the fucking UN report admitted that it was a mischaracterization that genital mutilation took place. Fuck. The reason why this is important, by the way, stop debating rape and focus on the genocide, good Lord. No, shut the fuck up. You want to know why this is important to cover? Because this is a colonialist tactic, okay? All of the barbaric rapist savages. It is the same exact fucking principle that whites in apartheid South Africa applied to the black population of South Africa. It is the same exact principle that white settler colonial violence that the Native Americans were subjected to that justified their genocide. It is the exact same thing that white Klansmen said in the Reconstruction era, and as they went on to lynch black people in the aftermath of the Reconstruction era in the Jim Crow South. This is a colonialist tactic to fucking lie about the sexual barbarity of these animals, these primal beings that are violent and scary and must be fucking put to heel. That is precisely the reason why it's important to address the truth of this so that justice can be served for the fucking victims, okay? Discounting that sexual assault or sexual violence ever took place on October 2nd because
Team deathmatch.
In conflicts.
Another day in paradise, Black Ops.
You must understand the reason as to why this was so important for Israel to push.
Lead dart.
It absolutely plays a role in the way that people fucking analyze the Palestinian population. Had a wonderful conversation about this, about the psychosexual nature of this kind of projection propaganda.
The settlers always projected their desires onto the colonized. They would always, specifically in the case of the southern United States, is the white man not always saying that the black man at any opportunity would jump on the good white woman at any given opportunity.
Using lethal.
Constantly about how bad.
Watch it!
Racist figures and reprehensible within Israeli society. Meir Kahane, there is a video of him on YouTube where he speaks about, he says, there are currently Arab boys hidden in cafes pretending that they have Jewish names so they can basically trick nice Jewish girls into dating Arabs. He also gained a massive amount of popularity as part of a horrific exterminationist ideology by saying that there were serious nationalists motivated by terrorism and national hatred of Israel occurring at the time, and there were these.
Hostile fighter.
This is the crucial part. Many overlook claims of gang rape from Sapir and Rob Cohen, repeated in the New York Times and other Western media. We already knew they lied from other evidence, but Patton's own report also debunked it. Patton's team said that the accounts of gang rape could not be verified during the time provided along Road 232. This is the escape route from the Supernova Music Festival where two individuals claimed they saw gang rape. Story that was cited by virtually every one of the 13 media investigations as civil society. The statement further undermines Israeli and media claims that mass rape occurred on October 7. It is literally Emmett Till shit. The forensic pathologist looked at all of the bodies and did not find a single one that had that specific type of genital mutilation. As a matter of fact, there's another story about like nails in. And mischaracterizing grazing gunshot wounds to genitalia as targeted genital mutilation using knives. Here's the UN, the Office of the Special Representative, the Secretary General on Sexual Violence Conflict. Okay, additional challenges. Volunteer first responders without relevant qualifications or expertise.
Oh my God.
Some examples include mistaking post-mortem pugilistic posturing, a boxer-like body posture with flexed elbows, clenched fists, and spread legs, and flexed knees. due to the burn damage as indicative of sexual violence, misinterpreting anal dilation due to postmortem changes as indicative of anal penetration, and mischaracterizing grazing gunshot wounds to genitalia as a cardiac. Why they mischaracterized it? Because the first responders were not actually forensic pathologists. They did not have the capacity to do a autopsy on the fucking spot. So they just looked at it and then said, this is what must have happened. And then the Israeli media ran with that fucking story. That's why I say it's important to get a real conclusion with verifiable evidence. You want to know why I said, and many people made note of me saying, evidence in this regard in the UN preliminary report does not meet the standards of circumstantial law, because you're looking at a photo of someone going like this and you make up your mind on it. But a forensic, a person that is supposed to conduct the autopsy is going to actually figure out whether or not this thing that you're suspecting happened. Every single headline that you can erroneously slaps on you, including this one, is contributing to, once again, screams without words, how Hamas weaponized sexual violence on October 7th.
Hey, someone should make a movie about this. Or even better, someone should make a video game about this. Oh, wait. Never mind.
On her timeline, so much so that the New York Times actually dropped her after the story. Okay? The story itself was incredibly controversial within the New York Times editorial board because they said it did not.
Operator establishing score streak. Calling in score streak.
Team, because they could not. There was no verifiable evidence and simply claims people were making that could very easily be destroyed in a moment's fucking notice, and as many of them did. The screams without words, mass rape, atrocity, propaganda hoax. Anat Schwartz, she liked posts calling for Gaza to be turned into a slaughterhouse. This is the person that the New York Times actually fucking hired. Anat Schwartz liked this slaughterhouse. The New York Times saw all of this and said, okay, we can't have her do reporting for Israel again. If this didn't meet the standards, why did this article come out? Well, because atrocity propaganda was an absolute fucking necessity. The reason why I'm not moving on from this, why some girly pops might actually have some issues with this, because no, you have to understand something very important here. This is the same exact type of atrocity propaganda that colonial powers have always used against black people, against Native Americans, and the German Nazis used against Jews. Okay? That they're monsters. This is the fucking in the goddamn book because it's such a depraved thing to do this level of harm. When you hear it, you don't even want to think about anything else. You are immediately and understandably grossed out by it. It's the same exact shit that we do right now with immigrants. Immigrants are rapists. Immigrants are rapists. Why do you think Trump says that over and over again with no evidence whatsoever? And it's incredibly frustrating that I actually do you have any names? Do you have any victims that have come out and actually offered first
Finish lines in sight. Don't let up.
This barbaric systematized by Hamas.
Kill that guy. What the fuck, man?
Took place on October 7th. Because when a woman comes out and says, this actually happened, this happened to me, Amit, I think her name is Amit, that Ethan kept showing over and over again, she was sexually assaulted.
Hang on. Let me call Langley. Give him the good news.
Sexual violence and conflict report. That is the verifiable instance of rape that did not happen on October 7th, but actually happened in captivity. Okay? I claim that over and over again, not understanding that I've never actually denied that. And he kept testimony to over and over again. however, evidence. Real evidence as far as like first-hand accounts and testimony. Even this is moments before that clip that he posted about, by the way, to make me look like I'm just laughing about rapes taking place. Accounts and testimony from hostages. So that part is real. That did happen, which is very important, and that was a part of the UN investigation that was conducted. There is, however, evidence. There is, however, real evidence. I think you need to clarify systematically. People are struggling to understand what you mean. There is no... Hassan, please respond to it. It's very important. They're going to use it against you. What do you have to say to Gila's reasoning for Israel not letting forensic investigations that due to religious regions, they bury the body ASAP? That's a fucking lie, and she's wrong. They did actually conduct forensic examination on many of the bodies. They didn't immediately bury them. She's literally wrong. They took the bodies to the Shura base, and they actually did look at the bodies. The issue, however, was that the initial forensic examination was not conducted by real specialists. Zaka ended up desecrating the bodies in the process and ruining any sort of on-the-spot kinetic forensic examination from taking place, because you have to look at the way that like bodies are presented to develop an understanding of what happened, like how this person died. They denied a real investigation to so many Israelis. Ethan tried to say that as well. Can you show us proof? Yes, I can. Hold on. I will. It's so crazy that people like having this conversation and going over the very important details and having this conversation, going over these very important fucking details on what happened on October 7. And given the gruesome nature of these accusations, people just simply go, oh, you're just a fucking rape denier. And it's insane to me. It's actually fucking insane to me. Thoughts on you being accused of dog whistling? Yeah, dude, totally. You got it. Where's the Shura base article? Hold on, I'm going to pull it up in a second. Ugh. Anyway, but this is the UN report, by the way, the Sexual Violence and Conflict report. Stop saying, stop posting accusation in a mirror, okay? He is currently adding every single one of his IG stories about you to a highlight reel. I don't care. The easy route in this situation is to just simply say, is to simply go along and not try to debunk some of this very dangerous misinformation. Here, the claim of extensive visual evidence with repeated statements of
an allegation.
We saw a photo of cut up vaginas, nails and vaginas, knives and vaginas is strewn throughout the original Gettleman Stella Schwartzhorg to browbeat the reader into submission, but it was all a contrived fake,
that
a
there
facade.
Were objects like knives inserted in the genitalia of a woman. I mean, like, the team reviewed the photos and we did not find anything like that. And I did mention, like, one of the challenges faced by, of course, by the Israeli government, but which impacted our own work, was the fact that inaccurate, unreliable forensic conclusions were drawn by untrained volunteer first responders. And we give some examples. We give some examples in the report, such as interpreting an anal dilation as anal penetration, when, according to our forensic expert, we've extensive burn damage. This is what you get, anal dilation, and the position of the body.
Do you understand why the UN report itself said that, like, the circumstantial evidence is still important and valid to make an assessment, but it doesn't reach the normal standard of an investigation? This was a preliminary report that was conducted. A preliminary report is like a field breathalyzer. When you're drunk driving and a cop pulls you over, they first give you a field breathalyzer test. That field breathalyzer test is actually very inconsistent, but that's a test that allows the police to detain you, to take you to the fucking precinct so you can use the real breathalyzer in the precinct. That one is actually admissible in court. The field breathalyzer test is inadmissible in court. It doesn't mean that you're actually drunk. It's not proof to actually say you have conclusively driven drunk. It's only enough proof to detain you so they can take you to the fucking real deal. This is the exact same principle with a preliminary investigation. The UN conducted this preliminary investigation, and then Israel said you cannot conduct an actual investigation into this process. You just have to take our word for it. Why would they say no to this? Do you think that the fucking United Nations is anti-Semitic?
Team deathmatch. Use of deadly force has been approved.
That's what Israel thinks. They do.
Next!
So glad I don't have to run in here. That's all you. You're just carrying me around.
Do you understand?
Get back here!
God, this game is intense.
In spite of its own complicity, several of that narrative's fundamental tenets. Western mass media is engaging with a concerted campaign to ignore this, as it spins the report of the communication who claims that Hamas committed systematic rape on October 7. In fact, the report explicitly doesn't make this conclusion. 2.1. The UN report does not find the report of sexual violence on October 7. The central claim of Jeffrey Gettleman and Osh Schwartz and Adam Sager.
That wasn't fair. What the fuck was the ref?
Majority of the Hamas fighters did not carry out or isolated acts of rape, but rather engage in a broader pattern of gender-based violence using rape as a weapon of war. However, when 52 minutes into Patton's March 4 press conference, Farnaz Fasihi
Got one.
sexual violence was a
Hostile
strategy of Hamas.
eliminated.
Both on October 7 attacks and in regards to the hostages, Patton answers definitively in the negative. Later in the press conference, when she is asked by Haaretz am I correct that you cannot conclude that sexual violence was a systematic character?
5 kills.
That we set out to do, the gathering and verification of information for the purpose of the inclusion in the annual report of the Secretary General.
Enemy spring mine!
That's where you would go into the we did not
Reclaim the advantage. Now hold it.
nor draw conclusions on attribution of violations to specific armed groups. And here's the Shura base widespread sexual
You almost got him. Good.
Enemy spring mine!
It turned out it was based on one.
Ready to launch.
SAM turret deployed.
At the Shura base, most of the bodies were taken for purposes. In that capacity, they also examined the bodies that were completely
Plastic recon above! Mate, authorizing Hellstorm control!
Get eyes on. Hellstorm missile away. Hellstorm took 3. Headed out. UAV NTL 50%. Check. Priority tasking request received. UAV exiting your grid.
October 7 survivor recounts rape at the hands of Hamas terrorists. This guy was a Nova Festival guy. That on October 7, terrorists came and gang raped him. Guess what? He was suing the Israeli government for $133 million. And the Israeli government looked into his statements and found that he was guilty. And they closed the case.
Enemy deleted!
They raped and murdered women in Israel. This guy also was found to be fucking lying.
Of course, if you compare the raw numbers, Gazans have lost a lot more than Israelis. 40,000 people have died. Neighborhoods have been completely flattened during this war. And while we should keep their plight at the top of our minds at all times,
Learned your fucking lesson yet?
Their suffering on the whole is not
This war, not a war, it's a genocide. I thought you recognized it as such.
as great. So, some of you may know that I'm my wife is Israeli, my kids are half Israeli, and my entire in-law is Israeli. I lived there for 5
Pull your
years,
head out of your
and
ass.
I grew a closeness with the country and its people. One of the biggest issues between me and Hassan and his community was
Israelis are horrifyingly raping.
Hell yes! Oh my god, this game is intense.
This right here is a dog whistle. If you want to know what a fucking dog whistle is, this is what a dog whistle is. Not the idea
Your ammo's low.
is actually indicative of their anti-Semitism. That's something that you made up in your fucking mind. But this is a very carefully crafted dog whistle that I don't even think he's actually attributing here.
So glad I don't have to run in here. That's all you. You're scaring me around.
When talking about Gazans and that's passive voice is applied by mainstream outlets all the fucking time.
I'm in well, they are in favor of
Nice!
Their theory is that after the October 7th attack, Israel should just dissolve its borders and let Hamas enter Israel.
One state at any point, pre-October 7, post-October 7, at any point. Yes.
Eyes on enemy! Move!
Style eliminated. On the move.
Them, dude. What do you genocide them a little bit? I mean, October 7th.
Hey, don't worry, bud. You're doing your best.
Hostile shooter! Enemy deleted!
A bunch of fucking
Two kills.
that I couldn't even recall. I couldn't even recount off the top of my mind when I was actually having a conversation with Hassan on Friday.
5 down!
It's one state right now. Okay? It already is one state. That's what it is. Israel's an apartheid state.
Do you think Israel should have
Right where we want them. Finish the job.
Style eliminated.
UAV available.
Headshot.
Dismantle the government in the way that it existed, like get Netanyahu out of power. 85.
Okay. So you're saying Israel in
85%.
response? Hold on, dude. You're saying in response to this,
Molotov going out!
Israel should have dismantled their own government.
Requesting recon above!
Actions would be to
Hostile
demonstrate
shooter!
Overhead.
take Netanyahu out of power.
Requesting
Yes.
UAV.
The problem is that Israel's been at war.
Everybody hated Netanyahu after.
They were already dead. Good job.
Oh, hell yeah! That's how it's done!
Why? We're at war. Is it a war or is it a genocide?
So glad I don't have to run in here. That's all you. You're just carrying me around.
That sound is correct. Don't
Move it!
Style eliminated.
And screaming at me in our debate. To which he openly recognized he actually weaponized later down the line to slander me.
With its neighbors for 70 plus
When friends are gonna come along. I already told them not to come along yet. Okay? I'm doing this on my own.
years, and it makes a lot of sense that there be some distrust there. Is it really insane to think that Jews, as an ethnic minority in Israel, would not be safe? After all, Israel is a country of refugees.
Yeah, you are a ethno-religious supremacist and also an anti-Arab racist. That's it. That's it. This is not a valid fear. This is the same exact fear that whites had in the apartheid structure in South Africa, that once blacks were free, they would turn around and do a reverse apartheid. This is exactly what people thought about restoring the racial pecking order in the aftermath of the abolition of slavery. You are a Jewish supremacist. That's it. When you're thinking about Israel, you are operating on supremacist thinking, okay? Not to the same degree as a Kahanist or whatever, but that's absolutely what this is. These fucking barbaric Arabs, if we were to lower the boundary wall would come in and fucking rape us to death. I can't take you seriously? What? Explain to me what you mean. Yeah, imagine imagine if Jews were a minority, the Palestinians would do to us what we've been doing to them. That's the only argument he has here, by the way. That's the only fucking argument he has. The suspicion that Palestinians would be just as depraved as the fucking Israeli government is to them. And for the record, he doesn't even understand that he's being fucking racist. And you will never be able to convince him that this is an unimaginably racist fucking thing to say. If I were to look through his goddamn comments here, no one would actually fucking cover the point. No one would actually turn around and be like, dude, what do you mean?
If the Jews didn't come from Europe after the Holocaust, they came from the surrounding Arab countries that expelled them in massive amounts following the 1948 war. In fact, there was more Jews displaced than Palestinians during the Nakba.
Yeah, this goes back to the famous conversation that we had where I said this was one of the worst claims that you made in your entire fucking context, Puke. The double Nakba theory, the idea that like Israel's planned exterminationist campaign towards the Palestinians was somehow a good enough fucking reason for why there was a continued domination of all Palestinians across the board, because sorry, Jews have to go somewhere. That is literally the entire reason why the Nakba is disgusting, okay? That is the reason why the Nakba is a ridiculous act of ethnic cleansing to begin with. Jews were in concentration camps in the fucking Holocaust, and the ones who actually survived this horrifying process turned around and in all but 3 years went to fucking Israel and killed Arabs. Palestinians that had nothing to do with the Holocaust. Think about that. How fucking insane that is. Sorry, we have nowhere to go. Guess we have to fucking kill you is not a reasonable conclusion here. You cannot attribute the crimes of other fucking countries like Iraq or even countries that were under colonial occupation like Morocco or under the leadership of Vichy France. You're talking about fucking Algeria. Algeria didn't even have its own liberation movement at this point. And you are attributing to the fucking crimes of the colonially occupied Algeria to Arabs, and you're saying that all Arabs are just anti-Semitic, so Israel had to exist because there was nowhere else for them to go. It's fucking ridiculous. They could have gone back to those countries. They literally could have gone back. There was numerous instances where the PLO and the Arab councils got together and said, hey, we can do a right to return. We can do a double right to return. Jews that want to go back to the MENA region, if they want to go back, they can go back. I'll give you one great example of this, okay? Algeria is a great example of this because it's under French colonial occupation at this point. There's a lot of anti-Semitism, sure, but part of that, for example, was the reality that the FLN's demand for Algeria and during the Algerian liberation was that Jews living in Algeria would be citizens, would be actual Algerian citizens, but they would have to denounce their French citizenship for that process. So what did Jews do in Algeria that collaborated with the colonial apparatus at the time? They went to fucking France. They didn't fly to Israel because they were being pogromed. They fucking chose to be French citizens. That's what happened to the Algerian Jews. This is the reason why you can't fucking make this comparison between what took place in all of these other Arab countries and what took place in Israel. None of these people are actually Palestinians. So why the fuck are the Palestinians constantly getting destroyed in the process? It's a nitpick, but calling Israelis the Jews is
overdrive. We have our orders. See it through.
That out, Jay Mershon. You are absolutely fucking correct. I keep forgetting.
The lead is ours.
They laughed at you for this.
Hostiles reclaimed the lead.
After the breakout of the 1948 war. Anyway, that doesn't mean that there wasn't fucking expulsions that were taking place in the fucking way that Israel conducted.
We've taken the lead. Stay on task.
It's fucking gross. It's
Move!
Well, you know, in the aftermath.
We're winning. Keep it that way.
Displaced. They felt wrong.
We claimed the advantage. Now hold it.
Fucking casualties. So I guess it was permissible to do the Holocaust would be a fucking psychotic argument to make. And it's actually one. I'm a historian. Daryl, whatever the fuck his name is. Kill some fucking Arabs to you know, to kill some goddamn Palestinian Arabs to take over their fucking land. What are you gonna do about it? Everyone ever thinks it's the racist thing to say. Everyone thinks Arabs are not human. It's fucking crazy.
Enemy thermal!
I'm talking about instability against Jews under Vichy France. There are Algerian Jews that were harmed, okay, throughout this history, but all the way through World War II.
Get back here!
Because he looks at the entire scope of not even post 1945.
We've given up the lead.
Daryl Cooper says, well, Germans
They've taken the lead.
have had after World War I, so what are you going to do about it? Lo and behold, you know, that's why the Holocaust had to happen. That is the same argument that he's making here, you know? Germans experienced a lot of economic instability, and therefore they became much more militant and said that the perpetrators were Jews.
Jewish communities in huge numbers. Now, if you look at them, you're looking at close to literally zero Jews left in this country. Algeria had 104.
Well, thank God I fucking brought it. Algerian considered French citizens. They were collaborators with the French occupiers. The Algerian government in the aftermath of the liberation. Renounce your French citizens. French now. That's precisely what took place here. You are like, you know, there was ethnic cleansing happening in fucking Algeria to Jews.
Learn your fucking lesson yet? I don't shut you!
Lebanon after 1948, Hassan. God, he's still doing this. He's still fucking trying to put this point together. There was nowhere to go. Nowhere to fucking go. You want to know why this argument and is at the heart of Zionism? Because the Holocaust and centuries of pogroms of Zionism, Israel exists as a Jewish ethno-state, a Jewish ethno-supremacist state. It has to exist, or else the Holocaust will happen again. And literally at the fucking heart of this entire argument.
Check your fire!
And that's precisely why he has to make it.
Eyes on enemy!
Israel, the Zionist brigades that exterminated and also Palestinians from their ancestral lands. It has to be.
Anymore!
Do you understand how stupid this argument is?
I don't shut you!
We've given up the lead.
Requesting recon above.
And puts the blame of why
I don't shut you! Enemy thermal!
It has to be a Jewish.
Semtex, push! Enemy thermal!
taken the lead. Stay on task.
Killed that guy. What the fuck, man? Buried. Hey, don't worry, bud. You're doing your best.
You're falling behind, Crimson.
Your trophy system was eliminated.
We're winning. Keep it that way. Hostiles reclaimed the lead.
Whoa, put me in a gun.
They've taken the lead.
Seems like everybody is
Hostiles reclaimed the lead.
outnumber the Jews.
Walking all over you. Have some goddamn time. We've taken the lead. Stay on task. They've taken the lead.
Right now and be able to get a goddamn house in the fucking West Bank.
We're winning. Keep it that way. All units prepare for exfil. This one's ours.
What a ridiculous fucking argument. Think about how fucking stupid this is. You can be Ethan Klein, an American Jew living in fucking and go live in Israel.
Sorry, mate. Broke your streak. Frank. Eyes on enemy.
How the fuck is that appropriate? How is that acceptable? It's bullshit. It's fucking insane. I'm losing my mind. Having this conversation with Americans feels so crazy where you're like, these guys are literally trapped in an open air prison. Okay, they're trapped in a fucking open air prison. They can't go to Israel, and guys will literally turn around and tell you like, what do you mean Israel's fucking awesome, dude? Yeah, I mean, don't look over at the open air prison. There's a genocide going on there. But also anyone that fucking speaks out against that genocide is actually, lo and behold, an anti-Semite. He misspoke when he said Israel, just a heads up before he focuses on that. What are you talking about? What?
And I'm sorry, but Hamas, the governing fucking body there wants to kill all the fucking Jews.
Yeah, Morocco protected Moroccan Jews from the Vichy government during the Holocaust, finally acknowledged by the Israeli government recently. Anti-Semitism is not as prevalent in Arab society as Ethan wants everyone to believe. If it's as mindless ancient fixture as the Arabs. Herzog hails Moroccan king for country's treatment of Jews during the Holocaust. Oh, all of these countries had very different attitudes. Okay, was there a lot of tension amongst the native Jewish population in these Arab nations? Yes, there was, but you cannot attribute the individual responses to the Nakba and how horrifying that was for people back to the Palestinians who are suffering in this process. And yeah, there are literally a right to return that was afforded to Jews over and over again. You know who didn't want that? Israel, because everybody fucking knows that's it. You're there. You don't want to go anywhere else. That's it. God forbid, dude. God forbid.
40,000. Now it has about 50. Iraq had 150,000 Jews, now 10. And I want to give a special shout out to my boy over in Afghanistan, one known Jew. We know him.
Oh. Bro, Afghanistan isn't even a fucking Middle Eastern country. It's not even Arabs. Afghanistan is not even fucking Arabs at that point. It's just, I guess it's Muslim. That's what it is, right? That's what the fuck he's talking about. I love this, by the way, because one must ask the question, because remember, the whole point is like Arabs have antiquated anti-Semitic tendencies, right? And that's why fucking, as Ethan claims, Arab anti-Semitism is the reason why Arab anti-Semitism is the reason why Arab Jews became Zionists, right? That's what he said. Now, what's really interesting about this is, like, if you look at this, it says Jewish refugees from the Middle East, an estimated 820,000 Jews fled violence and discrimination in their homelands between 1948 and 1972. Now, this is obviously fucking propaganda bullshit, okay? That monolithizes all Arabs and all Muslim countries. It is a way to justify why Israel must exist. Everybody hates us. We have to live in Israel. Otherwise, Holocaust everywhere, right? Now, the irony, of course, is one must ask the question like, okay, pre-1948, how did a lot of Jews get there, as a matter of fact? If Arabs are so anciently and antiquatedly anti-Semitic, why was the Ottoman Empire seen as a fucking safe land for Jews, where Arabs, Arab Muslims, Arab Christians, and Arab Jews could live side by side? Why did Spanish Jews actually come and exist under the banner of the Ottoman Empire, as a matter of fact? And before people say, oh, they had to pay jizya, yes, I know, but Muslims pay zakat, which is obviously a larger percentage of your fucking income, and jizya meant that you didn't actually have to serve in the military, okay? And in comparison to being fucking ethnically cleansed in, like, the Inquisition, it was a far more favorable position. The important point is that Ethan thinks Palestinians returning to Israel will be dangerous for racist reasons, like the Palestinians are all Hamas, because what's the difference between a teacher from Gaza and a teacher from Europe visiting Israel? One will be dangerous and the other not. Exactly. And even if he doesn't personally, if you were to ask that question, even if he doesn't personally believe that, yeah, I know. Also, Iraqis want their Jewish neighbors back. It's from 972 magazine. Months after a Shiite cleric won the parliamentary elections, Iraq said Jews are welcome on an online poll, and the matter suggests that Iraqis are ready to discuss the right of return more than Israelis are. Yeah, I guess they just want them to return so they can fucking kill them, right? That's what it is. That's probably what it is. These sinister Arabs, they just want them to come back so they can kill them. Fuck. I'm going to keep this clip going. Eventually, I might have to rely on us again because I think it's very instructive of his attitude overall on the position. Ironic because I think this was when he was like also yelling at Olivia for liking a post on Instagram that said Palestine will never die from the river to the sea.
Domination.
Anything is fair game for
Engagement windows open. Go, go, go! Securing Charlie. Taking Bravo underway.
Locking down the
Charlie secured. Securing Alpha. We're losing Charlie.
Ben Gurion said
losing Bravo.
Dust. Okay.
We're losing Alpha.
We're getting captured. Hold them back.
Locking down Bravo. Securing B.
Silverware.
Securing Zone A.
Put me in a gun.
A ethno-religious supremacist ideology. Were like, well, these guys that are here, they're barbarians. We need to make them Westerners again. And they were horrible. There was literally a fucking child adoption kidnapping scheme.
All right.
Yemeni
Let's go.
Losing B.
literally subjected to. Yemenite child.
Tango removed.
Taking B.
Put me in a gun.
Oh, it still continues to this day. Ethiopian Jews are fucking sterilized by the Israelis.
Take your fire!
Locking down Bravo.
In group when he first arrived to Israel, even though he was
Falling behind Crimson.
Jews is literally omitting all the people the Jews didn't consider to be Jewish, even though they literally were. By the way, in the aftermath,
More like Seth Rogen. Come on, that's pretty clever.
Taking Alpha. Taking A. They're taking C.
All right.
Taking Alpha.
Call this duty.
Zone A secure. Losing A. Taking Bravo underway.
Okay, he is Kurdish and Arab.
We're losing Alpha.
Hold them back.
Location secure. Maintain current posture.
Is that after the 9/11
Losing Bravo.
When Israel
The lead is ours.
the air
Losing B. They're taking all zones. We're losing Charlie. Losing Bravo. Lost Charlie. Securing C. Losing B.
Because they were a white
Losing Bravo.
All right, let's call this duty.
super anti-Semitic against their own Jewish citizenry.
Knocking down Charlie.
Jews were being harmed in fucking
Losing Bravo.
Headshot.
Jews more? Arabs or
Taking C. Lost B.
why the fuck don't you advocate to build Israel on Germany?
All right, let's call this duty.
Why is it? Why is it that we don't attribute
Taking B.
Starting objective capture.
More like Seth Rogen.
Fucking ethnically cleansed. You know who got ethnically cleansed? The Palestinians, who had nothing to do with the Holocaust. 11,000 Palestinians fought against Nazi Germany before people say the Grand Mufti or some other bullshit. The Grand Mufti was a fucking colonial vestige, okay? The notion that Germany's on the good side because they become performatively anti-Semitism in their shame for the Holocaust despite doing the Holocaust, whereas Arab countries famously did not do the Holocaust, yet we consider Germany to be an ally of Israel and Jews. Yeah, exactly, because it's fucking Eurocentric supremacist bullshit. That is precisely the reason why. Because Arabs are barbaric. Unless you're an Arab Jew, in which case, okay, we'll give you a leg up in this circumstance, in Israel at least. You know?
They kicked them all out, 1 million plus of them, and forced them to go the one place they hated the most, Israel. And now those same people that forced them out of their homes are telling them they don't belong there. So if the Jews of Israel...
Yeah, brother, I'm sorry. You don't understand. It is not a land without people for a people without a land. There were people there, okay? You can't just act like this was empty space that needed to be occupied, okay? It wasn't empty space that needed to be occupied. Okay, under the Ottoman Empire, Palestinians lived there. 2% of the population before the Aliyah process started, before the Balfour Declaration, was Jewish. Okay, the rest were the ancient. Here's the other side of the story. The ancient Jews that lived there, that stayed there, became Arabized, became Islamized throughout that process. So when you're actually when Israel's fucking killing Palestinians, they're unironically killing their own fucking ancestors too, in terms of the 3,000 years of history. But I'm not even gonna get into that shit because people get real fucking touchy about that. You're just killing your own ancestors in that process. We're like, well, you're barbaric and you're brutal and ruthless. You must be killed because I need this land now.
are surrounded by Islamic militant terrorist groups that have...
What? Algerian Jews were given a choice between Algerian citizenship and French citizenship, and guess what they chose? You're not cooking. Oh, you're talking to him. Yeah, I already brought that up. I know. I did. He brought up Algeria, and it's such a clear-cut indication that he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He just saw this goddamn meme on Instagram and thought he cracked the fucking code, dude. That's how little he cares about this issue that he's supposed to know about, right? Most of them were granted citizenship, not even a choice. Please read